Okay, everybody, can we take a seats and let's get the meeting going here. Are we on? Okay, here we go. Okay, welcome everybody to the where are we here? The February 12th meeting of the Pelican Bay Services Division Board. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. We appreciate the attendance, and we'll get the meeting started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call. We are missing Mark Furland, Rick Swider, and Jacob Demooney. Everybody else is here, I believe. Can I have a motion? Before I do that, I always used to like to just thank the PBF for allowing us to use the facility for our meeting today. We appreciate that a great deal. Can I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda as drafted?
I so move that we approve the agenda.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. Any discussion? There is a section in here, Joe. I didn't know whether you wanted to talk to it. You know, there's some stuff going on, obviously a lot going on in terms of beautification. Do you want to add anything in the agenda for that or not? Did you want to talk to that or not?
Beautification?
Yeah. No? There's just a whole section in here with, you know.
Oh, yeah, I don't know who put that in.
Okay.
I saw it, but I...
All right, I'll cover it. Fair enough. Okay. All right. All those in favor of the agenda as drafted, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, unanimously approved. Thank you. A motion to approve the minutes, please, as drafted.
I move we approve the minutes.
Thank you. Second?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any discussion, comments? All those in favor as drafted, approved, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against? Okay, thank you, Barbara, as usual. Appreciate that. Section of the meeting where we open the microphone to audience comments. If there's anybody who'd like to step up to the microphone and address us on any issue that's not already going to be covered in the rest of the agenda today. Not seeing anybody, we'll close that section of the meeting. Thank you. Neil, Administrator's report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Under the project summary that is behind the minutes in the next tab of your agendas, on our operations facility, a couple of things. The drywall installation is complete. The bathroom and locker room facility have the tile and facilities installed. Made good progress in the past month. Continue to work on the relocation of a FPL transformer. The original transformer for that site is going to be compromised as a result of some of the outbuildings and the site work. So that's something that is problematic, trying to get on FPL's calendar to engineer and relocate that transformer. So I'm going to keep talking about that for the next couple of months, just because has the potential to cause some problems further down the road. I'm told, moving on now to the sidewalk improvements phase 2, I am told that a substantial payment that has been in dispute with Quality Enterprise and the Clerk's Finance Department has been resolved, and so I'm hopeful that as a result of that, they will remobilize and give us a date to come back and address both some finish issues and 2 separate task orders. One of them, in fact, I was out here earlier today to meet with some representatives at the Crescent who have some concerns about where the sidewalk will meet their landscape berm that is adjacent to the new sidewalk. I think we've got those addressed, and but we're going to be constructing a little rounded D-curb that is there. We did something similar at the intersection of, is it Ridgewood and Gulf Park Drive? Yeah, the, kind of the southeast corner there, if you're curious as to what that looks like. We did it in one other case there.
Neil, going back to the Crescent for a second,
Sure.
Mr. Lilly, who I believe is involved in this process.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
I didn't get a Christmas card from Mr. Lilly this
Ah.
year.
Mr. Lilly called me the other day and reminded me that excuse me, that Hotwire had put itself a cable running very close to the existing sidewalk, close to what you're contemplating. Are you aware of this?
I am. In fact, when I met he and two other members of their board out there during lunch, it looks to me like the cable's laying on top of our adjacent planter bed. It's just laying there. It's about that big around, so it's a big fiber line. And I think Chad has done an incredible job with utility locates and conflicts, and having come from that industry before we stole him and brought him here, we do a really good job at that. But I'm well aware of the fact that there is a big fiber bundle that's running down that section of the road.
Is it going to be a problem for us?
I don't think so. The curb, as are all curbs, are sort of poured in place. I mean, there's no steel in them or anything like that. It's kind of a separate entity, and we'll have a cold joint that runs along there and will be formed up by hand. They are going to excavate a little area, what, Chad, maybe 9 to 12 inches below the existing grade where that landscape berm is meeting the new sidewalk. I'm quite sure we'll probably tear up some more irrigation, but I think the utilities there are deep enough. But in fact, Dave, if you were not aware of it, y'all ought to check and see what that cable that's laying in the adjacent bed is. Just laying on top of the ground. It is big, but yeah, I'm well aware of it.
Thank you.
Clam Pass, the field work for the survey for a potential dredging event that would occur in May is complete. Mohammed is compiling the survey information, expects to have it a week from today, and I will stay on him about that. I asked him in advance for the scope or magnitude of the amount of sand that is in the system. He said somewhere between 10 and 15,000 cubic yards. The last time it was 13,500 cubic yards, and so he has every reason to believe that it will be about the same. And he also told me in advance the county is doing a massive beach renourishment project at the north end of Park Shore, and he expects that sand to be up here in the inlet a year from now. So we'll be back here probably having a similar discussion at that time. The Bay Colony dune swale work is ongoing. I think Mr. Rodberg will allude to this, so I don't want to steal his thunder, but we have recently approved some additional scope of work, about $370,000 worth of planting, and I'll let Mike address that, as well as some of the finish grading and other matters concerning that. And then finally, Chad has also done some work to reclaim and relocate sand adjacent to your two beach amenities from the east side or the back side of those buildings, and drag it back out and place it in front of those buildings. Also exploring the possibility of even a potential change order for the project that is being done in Park Shore, to see if there's some areas where we have exposed mangrove roots and trunks in the nearshore beach, to see if we can find or reclaim enough sand to address some of the remaining swimming hazards or wading hazards that are there. We did better than I thought that we would in the removal of a lot of that material at low tide, but there is some that remains beyond the reach of the track hoe and its ability to do that. And so we've had a very busy month from a kind of a public works standpoint, especially in recognition that we're now in peak season, and your staff's done, I think, really really great job out there in those regards. And if there are no other specific questions, and my next item are the 4-month financials, or those ending January, again, that are behind the next tab. Again, I'll kind of give you a 30,000-foot overview, and then the chairman may have some issues that he wants to address as well. Cash on hand at the end of 4 months was $14 million. 13,936,000 to be exact. 5.6 million of that in your general operating fund, but a combined total cash of right at $14 million. There were some payables on the liability portion of the balance sheet that were outstanding at the end of the month. The most significant of those were the payment for our debt service fund, the commercial paper program that we're in there. But total payables that were in the system were $1.6 million at the end of the month at that time. Fund balances, again, the fund balance at the end of the month for the our general fund, the operating fund, $5,546,000. The associated entries there pertain to either projects that are encumbered or required minimum reserves in place in accordance with the county commissioner's budget and fiscal policy. Looking at the income statement, there was an additional $160,000 in non-ad valorem assessments that were received in January. Year to date, people chasing either deductions for their personal income tax returns or discounts. Total revenues received in the first 4 months of the year, $4,618,000, or right at 86% of the forecast for the entire year. As I looked through the various cost centers there, even given the seasonality of some of the things that Chad does, like insurance premiums, annual flowers, pine straw, fertilizer and chemicals, there are really no issues on the expenditure side of the budget that I think are material at this point. Be a little more important when we get to mid-year in another 2 months. But I'll stop there, Mr. Chairman, and see if there's anything in addition that you wanted to talk about.
Now, the only couple of things that Chad and I talked about was on the balance sheet, for those of you who've still got that up, in the first column of the operating fund, there is an account called Reserve for Disaster Relief for $700,000. That has gone. That was an error. I did receive today a revised sheet. That money has been used to cover the expenditures for the beach work that's been going on post-hurricane, and that's the money that's been taken off to a suspense account at the county, and it's been spent, but we hope one day maybe through a FEMA claim to get some of it back. But from a point of view via budgeting purposes, it's gone. So the actual income statement on 1007 actually shows it correctly as not being any longer in the accounts. So that was that one. And then the only other item I'd mention is that I'd missed it last month, but in the December account for 3041, which is our major capital spending accounts, in December county have actually taken some money out of our accounts to pay off some of the loan which we took out for the sidewalks. We'd budgeted to do that this year. I really intended to do it in 2 pieces. One at the end of March and one at the end of September, but the county went ahead and took it out anyway. So, but the one thing that they didn't do on this sheet is the fact they took it out is fine. We had the money budgeted. We have it on hand. Reducing the debt will hopefully reduce our interest expense for the balance of the year, which is obviously a good thing. But they failed in to take it out of the commercial paper loan note at the bottom of the page there. If you see it, it's still listed there as $5,000,005. That's now down to $5,000,002, was it, Chad? Something like that, right?
5.1.
5.1, okay. So we've started to repay the loan, all right, which is what we plan to do, and and so that's worthy of note, I think. So we're paying it off at approximately $500,000 a year. This year, we've essentially paid off about $375,000 of it, which was, you know, 3/4 of the year, essentially. So next year, it'll be a full $500,000. And that's all I had. The rest of it, I think, as Neil says, it seems to be progressing pretty much along the lines that we had budgeted.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
You mentioned that there's 700 grand that we could potentially get back from FEMA. Where do we stand in recovering our FEMA potential income on previous hurricanes?
I think Irma we got back, didn't we? We got back, on Irma, the county treated us differently, as I remember. On Irma, the county basically took the hit for the expense, and they recovered the money, all right? So it didn't really hit us too badly. This go-round, they've asked us to take the hit. So we've had to sort of essentially finance the, I hate to say recovery, because I'm less than 100% certain this go-round that we'll necessarily get this back, and even if we do, it takes quite a long time to get. And now we've got, you know, who knows what the current administration's view is on funding FEMA, right? So I just don't know that we're going to necessarily be as lucky in getting money back in the future. But it is going to be claimed. Chad is, and his team are putting together the claims for that money, and it's been taken off our books, and the expenses is not, essentially we've paid for it out of our reserves, right? So it's now sitting waiting for recovery. But I don't expect that to come in the next fiscal year. And so, as we discussed a bit last time, I think because we've used some reserves for this expense, we may well have to try and recover some of that in the assessment for next year, but that'll be a discussion coming up for the current budget cycle, which I guess, Chad, is already underway, right? Unbelievably. We never seem to be able to get away from that. Anyway, so that's where we're at. Does that answer your question, Peter, or not?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, anything else, Neil, or not? Neil, anything else? No, sir. Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda today was to get a update from the recently updated strategic plan of the foundation, which Susan Levine has very kindly come to give us a quick summary of what's changed and what might be relevant in particular to PBSD activities. So Susan, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm here today to highlight for you the changes that we've made in the newly adopted 3-year strategic plan for the foundation. I just think it's valuable that we all know what each other's priorities and goals are, since we're all basically working towards the same big overall goal, and that's the preservation and the betterment of Pelican Bay. So I'm pleased to report that we've hit a very important milestone. We have completed the year 1 of our 3-year strategic plan, and we have adopted a year 2. There were really 3 key steps that happened here. The first thing we did is we documented all the accomplishments of year 1, which were many. We opened the Sandbar restaurant for the first time after Ian. We are now have the Clam Pass building. It's called The Nest. If you haven't been there yet, please visit it. They have a great frosé at sunset time. We have successfully changed over to Hotwire as our bulk media provider. We've completed all the phase 1 learnings for our community master plan, which included a member survey. It included a usage analysis of everybody's card scan data, how much fitness they used, tennis they used, how many times they were on the tram, et cetera. So from here then, we deleted our year 1, which was 2023-24, and then we added, to make it a true 3-year plan again, we added 2026-27. And then finally what we did is we edited the plan. We looked at it and said, what have we learned over the last year? What, if any, priorities have changed for the foundation? And we made those changes, and that's the plan that I have in your packet. And I believe in red are the major changes. So the 2 largest changes to the plan is we've added 2 goals. We've added a goal on resiliency, and we've added a goal on governance. Resiliency was all throughout the year one plan, but it was mentioned in many different sections. And I think to reflect the community and the boards and the staff's kind of laser focus on resiliency right now, we pulled it out and made it goal 2. So it now reads, the goal 2 is to increase the resiliency of the community's physical assets and operations in the face of increased tropical storm and hurricane activity. There are 3 objectives under that. The first one we've achieved by the board established an ad hoc storm resiliency committee. It's comprised of staff, board members, PBSD, your representative is Rick Swider, the HOAs, and many community volunteers that have expertise in this area. So Tony DeRico, the president of the foundation, is chairing this committee. And the first thing they're doing is really focusing on any short-term solutions for next summer to make sure that we're in as good a position as possible for our asset protection next summer. And then we'll be looking at longer-term solutions as well. The second big goal we added is goal 9, and it's on governance, and it says to ensure best practices in foundation governance policies and management systems are adopted, systematized to drive strategic clarity, organization efficiency, and sound financial stewardship. So we just think it's worth kind of a comprehensive evaluation of how the foundation runs its business, both from a board standpoint and a staff standpoint, to make sure that we're following best practices and being as efficient and effective as possible. So I would just kind of close by saying a lot of strategic plans collect dust. It's notorious, every article you read about strategic planning. And I will say that our board and our staff have not done that. They have embraced this strategic plan, and it really is the foundation for their work stream every day. Everything we do is linked to one of these goals. Each of the goals in the plan has a tactic team. Generally, that tactic team is chaired by a staff person, but it also then has community members and others as well. When you review the document, just like last year, you'll realize that PBSD is a critical partner in many of these goals. Certainly goal number 1 is to protect Pelican Bay's unique natural environment, not only for today, but for future generations. That's pretty much all you guys. So I would just thank you for all you do. I know that our staffs work closely together and successfully together to deliver on goal number 1. And I read with interest your minutes from your January meeting, because it really helped me understand what your priorities are for next year, and they're very much aligned with what we would like to do. Other goals where we really depend on PBSD is goal number 2. Obviously, we talked about resiliency, but then also goal 7, which is the visual appeal and the ambiance. And this is where landscaping comes in. We've coordinated in the past with Joe and his Landscape and Safety Committee. We had the plan to do a community landscaping kind of master plan, and it got a little bit derailed this past year because of the focus on resiliency in the community master plan. But we hope our goal is to get it back on track this year and be working with you on a master plan, knowing that you're responsible for parts, we're responsible for parts, the HOAs are responsible for parts. It's a complex project, but we think it's really important to do, since kind of the lush landscaping of Pelican Bay has always been a signature feature of our community, and we need to make sure we preserve that. So with that, I will open it up for any questions or comments from board members.
Anybody have any comments? Yeah.
I just want to comment on 7 in the master landscaping plan.
Mhm.
This is not intended to be a criticism of what's going on now or how the place looks, but in the surveys we did, there was a lot of concern about the future of the way Pelican Bay looks. And if you read all the research that was done, it goes in this order: beach, restaurants, berm, mangroves, and beauty. That was the most common things. And it calls for a joint effort between the Strategic Planning Committee and PBSD. And I think it's important to recognize that to do a really good master plan, we need some experts and we need cooperation between the two boards. So it's really calling for a collaboration, and I hope we can achieve that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Me too.
thank you.
Me too. No, it's not to, the landscaping here has changed, not for lack of anything PBSD has done. Certainly, it's Mother Nature. And so we pride ourselves on that lush landscaping, and we want to make sure that, a lot of times something that comes down is in an HOA area or something that's the foundation's responsibility. And many times people aren't really sure where it falls. And so the landscape master plan will help give us a common vision for what we want things to look like, and a way to identify which areas are under whose responsibility, and give us a way to coordinate and maintain the beauty of our community. So thank you, Brad.
Anybody else?
Any other questions?
I just had a comment. And maybe I don't want to nitpick it, but it seemed to me that the visual appeal and ambiance involves more than just landscape.
Oh, it is. Did you?
um,
I just said that that's where landscape falls under.
Yeah.
Certainly, it's lots of things. Let's see, if we look at it, the landscape's goal is objective number 1, but then we're looking at a rebranding strategy for the community as a whole. I was just highlighting landscaping because that's where you guys participate with us.
I guess what I
but-
was trying to get to was, and we've kind of discussed this a little bit in the past, in the sense, I agree that the landscaping is a critical part of the look and feel, but so is, the entranceway, signage,
Absolutely.
monuments,
That's what branding is.
roundabouts.
Yeah.
Is that what you call branding?
Yes,
Is that what it is?
yes.
I
The
see.
branding is the logo, but then it's all the hardscape. And I will tell you, I was surprised when I was looking at the new history book for the foundation, and I realized that those monuments out on 41 are original to the community. I don't think I ever would have guessed that. And then obviously just the sign out front of the community center and by Oakmont Lake, all that's original stuff. And we need to, so that's all what's under branding. We
I see.
need to kind of raise that level. And it's my understanding that to do that branding project kind of falls in our area of responsibility, but there might be some areas where we need to partner with you as we go to implement things. So if you would like to put a representative on that tactic team about branding, we would be happy to have a PBSD board member helping us. That would be welcome.
Okay, thanks.
Susan, along around the middle of last year, I was made aware that you and your staff were stepping up to the job of, as you were talking about, every corner has some geography owned by or managed by PBSD, some of it's managed by the foundation, some of it's managed and owned by an HOA. And you were going to put forward or work on a master map, which would show who owns what. Did that get stalled as part of the resiliency stuff, or is that still underway?
That's still underway. That's the landscaping master plan that I alluded to that got a bit sidetracked because of resiliency, and the community master plan that's focusing on the renovation of the community center and the commons. The commons renovation is very much tied to resiliency because our big problem there is the bottom floor keeps flooding when we have a hurricane. But yes, one of the first things that will be done for that landscaping master plan is to do that mapping, so we know precisely who's responsible in what areas.
Do you expect that will happen in
75, 76?
25, 25?
Oh, like 2076. I hope it's before 2076, yes.
So hopefully before the end of this year, perhaps?
We have the money in the capital budget.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Okay. All right, next item is an update on the Gulf Park Drive and US 41 intersection, which is not necessarily an issue that's directly our responsibility, but for one which we kind of have some interest. So, Joe, I gather you attended the meeting, so can you give us a quick readout on that?
Sure enough. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this issue has been, bandied around for a while, and just so you know, the MSTBU that we represent and are in charge of the budget and taxes and assessments does not cover the median or 41. It's a state entity. And so everything we're doing now is through the state and their representative, which he's been very, very helpful. This is kind of a synopsis of what he presented, and in your packet is some visuals that helps understand what the terminology is. There are three main manners of mitigating danger and safety for that particular entrance and right turn only exit from Pelican Bay. One is a traffic light. According to the state, the warrants that would allow one have been met. There's a gradation of the amount of warrants that we met, and ours isn't extreme, but if indeed there was the right set of circumstances, a traffic signal could be placed there. The cost is about $1.5 million, according to the engineer that we've been talking with and who presented this. There is no budget in the FDOT budget, no funds, excuse me, for this, and they have no plans to proceed with a project. So that leaves, that option not in limbo, but not really a good viable one. Should the foundation want to proceed and explore it, they certainly can. PBSD is not going to. The second option for changing the median on 41 so that people exiting Pelican Bay at Gulf Park can't make a left turn. They're not supposed to. The signage certainly tells them, but as you all know, human nature doesn't really follow signs all the time, and indeed most of the infractions of left turn there have been mostly maintenance people that are working here, although the residents probably are not without some fault. So the second alternative is some type of modification that is a temporary modification with delineators. The price tag is about $30,000. Quick Curb has been talked about. That's a brand name. It's only one manufacturer's type of a delineator, and you can see in your packet what it looks like. They have to be maintained. According to FDOT, once again, they do not have budget for this, and they do not want to maintain a delineator, and they don't have any plans to make this a project. So according to FDOT, this second potential remedy for making a left turn is really not very viable. The third possibility is is where a permanent curb medium modification is made, and you can see it in your handout. It is it's a manufactured change that literally would not allow a vehicle to make a left-hand turn. It is probably the best one to entertain because it might really be possible to get something like that done. The price tag is about $300,000. FDOT does not have that in their budget, nor do they have the money. The communication I had with him indicated that in 2027, FDOT plans a resurfacing project. And during that project, there could be a window of creating another project, which would be this permanent curbed modification. As with the other projects, they don't have the money. Right now, as of yesterday when I spoke to him, he needs to make sure that he's telling me the correct information, that this could happen. We would have to come up with the funds. And we haven't run this through the board or through committee, but I would hope that the PBSD would be allowed to provide those funds should FDOT be able to fabricate a project that piggybacks on the resurfacing project. And I know it seems like a long time, 2027, but indeed, knowing government speed, it's really around the corner. And even if we had the free rein to do it ourselves, it wouldn't be done any sooner. So at this point, I'm waiting for some final assurances that this is really viable and can be done. And he's going to get back to me, so I'll have some word on it, at least by the next meeting for sure. But of these three alternatives that he presented, this third one seems to be one that might have some legs and that would instill a lot of safety for all of our residents making a left turn into Pelican Bay. So they're not surprised with someone making a left turn out of Pelican Bay. That's not supposed to happen. That's about really the synopsis of what transpired. One other thing happened during that Q&A, and is a very important one. The line of sight for our residents wanting to go north. In other words, you make a right turn out of Pelican Bay, and you have to make a U-turn in the median. Oh, it's about, I don't know how many feet up.
100 yards, I think.
About 100 yards?
Yeah, maybe more. I
And
think.
there's a second one, 100 yards, let's say more. But when you do make a left turn, the landscaping blocks a lot of vision, certainly for sedans. Right now, we were going to try to remedy that ourselves, but it is it's a state entity, and it's a county landscape contracted median. So we don't, we're not responsible or can landscape it or change it. County roads and maintenance is going to make an effort, and hopefully it'll come about in the next few weeks to make the landscaper change those bushes that are right on the curb, blinding anybody trying to make a U-turn. So, and if they don't, we will have to proceed, with our commissioner. I know the commissioner was asked something at the Men's Coffee about a traffic light. It's the first time he heard about it. He has said his representative has contacted the state. I don't know what that really is going to mean or what's going to happen there, but at least our commissioner knows that we're trying to do something in that intersection. And that's one other thing. There's a Landscape and Safety Committee meeting on March 27th in this building, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions of Joe? Yeah. Would you like to state your name and where you're from? Just,
My name is Mel Greenblatt. I live in Laurel Oaks, which is commonly known as the Bay Colony of Green Tree Drive. I just want to preface my remarks by saying that I was at the meeting last month with the gentleman from the Department of Transportation, and I conveyed my thoughts and concerns about this particular issue, which I want to convey to you and to everybody in the audience today. I want everybody at the table, from the Services Division and from the audience, just to try to visualize, if you're not familiar with coming up Gulf Park Drive to 41, try to visualize it in your mind. Normally, as many people would know, I would talk to you extemporaneously, but since I can't remember anymore whether I put shampoo in my hair this morning, I made notes that I'm going to convey to you and read that I put together. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today in regard to the issue of the traffic light at the corner of Route 41 and Gulf Park Boulevard. I'm well aware of the survey taken for the said traffic light. I'm also well aware that it was approved to have one at a cost of somewhere between 1.5 and 1.8 million. I've also been told that the state doesn't have the funds to subsidize this light, as this gentleman has said. Personally, I live in Laurel Oaks and Pelican Bay, where Route 41 is right outside my front door. While I don't hear a peep inside my unit, I do hear the cars when I exit. I travel outside of Laurel Oaks to Gulf Park and 41, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. I'm aware of the monetary options given us to create a safe passage to 41 North. There should be no options available. There should only be one option, and that is a traffic light. What you are suggesting, sir, is only a Band-Aid. And if the Band-Aid is constructed, there will be a time when people will die. Are you prepared to tell me my life isn't worth 1.5 million? Don't ask me. Ask my grandchildren. Ask my daughter. The problem is twofold. What you think is the main issue isn't. The main issue isn't crossing straight over 41 to go north. That happens a handful of times a day. There is never, ever a cop to go after the person making the illegal turn, even though there is a right turn only sign and a no go straight ahead sign. The main issue is not going straight across, but getting over to the third lane with always a large amount of difficulty, and then traveling a quarter of a mile to make a U-turn to go north. To have to fight the traffic coming north on 41. Much too dangerous. Even for someone like myself, who has literally driven over 2 million miles in my lifetime, in my career. Most of the people driving aren't as skilled as I am, and their reflexes leave a lot to be desired. The opportunity to get into a major accident increases dramatically, especially in high season. There have been 28 accidents over the last 5 years with no deaths. Boy, aren't we lucky. But some people have come very close to death, including my neighbor, who was T-boned by a motorcycle going probably close to 100 miles an hour 2 years ago. This happened at night when my neighbor was making a left-hand turn from 41 North onto Gulf Park Boulevard. He's lucky he's alive today. I don't mean to be sarcastic when I say this, but I am. Please tell me what brainchild made the speed limit from Publix on 41 to the next traffic light to be 55 miles per hour, when coming north on 41 is 45 and 50, and then when you go past Pine Ridge, it's only 45 miles an hour, all the way down to East 41. Did that person have, or persons have visions of building another NASCAR strip on 41? You and I know very well cars don't go 55. They go 65, they go 70, they go 75 miles an hour. I even understand you might be thinking of lowering the speed limit. I don't think that's gonna work unless it's gonna go down to 45 miles an hour. Because it's more common sense. 45 works very well. If you go to 50, they'll go 50, 55, 60, and 65. There are never any police around at all. I've been here 11 years. The only solution is a traffic light. No barriers, no building sidewalks, just a traffic light. Now, figure out how this is going to be paid for, and let's get it done. This is North Naples. I'm surrounded by homes in Pelican Bay that go from like $3 million to $40 million, and we're worried about $1.5 million to save lives. Seriously? I've traveled down Pine Ridge to Naples Boulevard yesterday. Do you know how many traffic lights there are from 41 to Naples Boulevard? 6. From Shirley, if everybody knows where that is, which has a traffic light, to Forest Lake, which also has a traffic light, is about 250 feet apart. Feet, not yards. It's 2 traffic lights right there. What sense does that make? In concluding, thank you for listening, and please put up a traffic light before someone gets killed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? We've kind of been wrestling with this issue tentatively for some while, and it's come up for discussion, and other folks have commented about the traffic light option. Some in favor, although none as quite eloquently as you just did, and some who have raised some concerns about noise levels, particularly, I think, being raised by having a traffic light stop there. You know, I don't know the answer to that. My sense was when we first took this on was that the Services Division, because we were responsible for cars essentially within Pelican Bay approaching 41, and we could do something about that, and we have just recently, I guess, put in these delineators on Gulf Park Drive, although somehow we seem to have gone mad and put in hundreds of them, but which I'll come back to in a minute. But so we kind of took that on, and then because there was this issue of, you know, what else can we do at the intersection, we sort of carried on we carried the torch, if you like, to try and make contacts with FDOT. And that's how kind of we've got involved. But our responsibility kind of does actually terminate at the border of 41. So the feeling had been that because this was a community-wide issue, and that we'd already heard from different segments of the community, both for and against it, that this was something that, even if it were to be possible to be accomplished, which we weren't sure of when we started, now it looks like theoretically it is possible to be accomplished. The question is the community as a whole, you know, behind going forward and considering doing this? And I don't know the answer to that. And I'm not sure, I guess our view was that once you start getting into community forums and, you know, discussion groups and President's Council things, it sort of steps over the boundary into things which typically the foundation takes care of for the community. And so at that point we were sort of going to step back, and I'd mentioned to Tony and I think Susan that I didn't know whether this thing sort of sat somewhere in your strategic planning, you know, environment, as to whether this was something that would be logically dealt with within that framework. But it seemed to me that, you know, if this was to be pursued, you know, whether there was some way, I'm not sure, Neil, maybe you can chime in, but I'm not so sure that we could, as the Services Division, necessarily be able to spend money on it. But whoever might be able to spend money on it, you know, the question would be, does the community want to spend the money on it? And if that needs to be teased out somewhat, you know, it needs to be some kind of organized forum, whether it's PBF, PBSD, you know, we need to, between us, I guess, figure out whether this thing needs to, it's got sufficient momentum behind it, if you like, in the community for us to really step up and consider this seriously. So I'm not sure we can resolve that today, but maybe, maybe we can get together with the foundation and try and see if we can figure out a way to address how the community, you know, wants to get behind this or not. So, yes, sir. Would you want to take it?
I'm Bill McCormick of Bay Colony. I would just suggest as a way of maybe getting to the bottom of this a little bit, is to have somebody do an analysis of the accidents that have happened out there, the 25 or so. If this gentleman is correct, who just spoke, that most of the accidents are not due to people trying to take a left-hand turn out of 41, out of Gulf Park to go north, and that it's people hurrying down to trying to cross 3 lanes and trying to do a U-turn. You know, that's one thing. However, if it turns out that most of the accidents have been caused by people trying to come out of Gulf Park, taking a left to go north, and that's a different issue. And that would suggest that the option 3 that the gentleman to your right presented would be a good one. Obviously, we want, you know, a cost-effective solution. So it seems to me that it ought to be evidence-based, and it ought to be based on, you know, what the facts are of the accidents. And it seems to me, once you determine that, then you can really come to the conclusion which option would be better.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the issue of the, I think the recognition of the danger of doing the U-turn kind of surfaced after we put in the no left turn sign, which was, what, a year or so ago? I can't remember. Maybe longer than that now, I can't remember. A couple of years, is it? Okay, so before that, people were trying to make the left turn. So the forcing to turn right and then having to deal with the U-turn, which I think is problematic. I don't have to do it personally myself, but I can see how, you know, having to deal with traffic that's coming at you from the south at 50 plus miles an hour is not ideal. So that danger, that particular danger, has been heightened in the last year or two, and I don't know how that reflects in the data. But I guess it could be looked at. But I guess my point is we need to get to a point where we and the foundation want to take this on as a project. And I don't know, what's your sense on that, Tony? Do you have one?
Can everybody hear me okay? Sorry. And thank you for the comments. I want to make 2 points. One is, this subject will get airtime with the foundation. The strategic planning committee recently added the subject of US 41 and Gulf Park Boulevard baked in our strategic plan as an opportunity. We tried to figure out where we wanted to put it, so we made sure it got good discussion. So we are collectively viewing the possibility as an opportunity. So the subject is going to get some airtime on the foundation side, so be sure of that. I'm not sure what mechanism, if any, we would put into place to accurately measure whether the community is willing to pay for it. I think that is a very fair question to ask, because whether PBSD writes the check or the foundation writes the check or we both write half a check, the residents are paying for it. All of you are paying for it in full. And the second point I just wanted to make, my understanding anyway, and I wasn't there, so I'm only reacting to what was the information that was provided to me. My understanding was that the total cost estimate for the traffic light included a comprehensive study. So to your point, yes, that we need analytics around the data around the safety concern. But the total cost estimate that the state provided for us included, I think it was $300,000 or something like that for the traffic study. So thank you.
Yeah, if I may. Chair.
Yeah, go
I was also at the meeting, and the man who presented from FDOT had the data on the accidents 5 years prior to that and the most recent 5 years. So that data's already there, and that was part of his presentation. Yeah, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I think the 300,000, Tony, was just engineering.
Okay.
related to the traffic lights. But I would say one thing, I know the chairman commented on what the staff have already done to try to put delineators in. I have raised the hope we could maybe even do a few more to force people to turn right rather than end where they are, but that's under investigation, I think. But my philosophy would be, let's, out of the possible here, let's do what we can to, within our power, to reduce the risk. I'm sure the state government, FDOT's got lots of other priorities down with interchanges and so on in 75. So I walked away from the meeting with the impression that the priority for state funding on the traffic lights is pretty low. Susan? Yeah.
I was just going to say that it was my understanding from, the gentleman did have all the accident reports for the last 5 years. And I think you should ask, I'll email him and see if they'll send that to us so we have it in writing. But he seemed to say that the most accidents and the most serious accidents were people turning left into Pelican Bay from 41. And that's Mel, that's your neighbor who was hit by the motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me says that the speed limit is a big issue. You gotta get those people slowing down so they don't come racing at you and, you look and say, oh gee, I got enough time, and then they're going 70 or 80 miles an hour. So I will put that on my list of things to do to get that accident report in writing and share it with everybody.
In fact, if I could, I brought it today. I'll give it to you at the end of the meeting so that you have it there. Our Achilles heel here, frankly, is that the leading cause of accidents at that intersection are distracted drivers. The number one is rear-ending the car in front of you, i.e. cell phone, or hitting trees is number two, i.e. distracted into the median, palm tree. That represents 60% of all the accidents over the 5 years. And so the Achilles heel for this potential project is we have to be able to prove that we could reduce the number of preventable accidents by at least 5 per month. And we don't even have 5 per, of the total. And so I don't want people to unnecessarily get their hopes up because there's some real issues here. And I think, Susan, I'd like for you to have this. I'm not opposed to us trying to upload it onto our website or the foundation's website. It's in the easy read, even with all the appendix that are here. And I just think people ought to have the basis of the information.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I had actually experience in law enforcement. I went to the State Police Academy in New Jersey and worked in safety mostly until I realized I had to make some money in life. Getting a speed limit change may be worse than trying to get a traffic lighted. It's a very hard thing to do. As far as enforcement, police enforcement, and I've talked to the county about this, there's always tension between local police, county police, and the state police. Theoretically, the state police are responsible for state highways, which is 41. I haven't seen a state trooper down here in months, so I don't know. And the county really doesn't have the resources to put a lot of people out on that highway. So that's a problem that I'm not sure how we solve that, but I do have experience in it.
Yeah, the state troopers actually hang out more on Alligator Alley, and there's, I don't know, 1 or 2 in this region. It's really limited. So.
So I guess my point, Tony, is that it sounds as though there needs to be some further, pursuit of this to run this down some. Do I take it that you can take it under your strategic plan as an item to work on? Is that what I hear? Because if so, we'll let you take the lead.
SWOT analysis as an opportunity. We do not have a stated goal prescribed yet.
Okay.
It's in our SWOT analysis as an opportunity to look at.
So you're going to look.
It's not in the strategic plan.
Okay.
So
Is that something though that you're going to look at, like, in the short term or the long term? I'm just trying to get some idea of how we kind of, go forward from here, because we've taken it about as far as we can. I mean, I'm a bit confused, as I understood it from the guy, I mean, I didn't attend the meeting, but as I understood it, we meet the criteria for the light. I don't think we have to prove that we improve anything by 5 deaths or anything. The problem is there's no money for it, right?
Yeah, it's not a project that, on their agenda. They don't have the budget for it, but they would permit it. And so, it is a catch-22. It really depends on the community at large of all of these alternatives to safety at that intersection. Where do we want to weigh in on it? The PBSD is limited by a statute. We do have some influence, with the county, but it's a much more complicated issue to remedy than it seems. It would seem very logical that why should we wait for a death to have a traffic light? And I agree with you. I mean, it's absurd. And that's really the criteria that follows almost everything that FDOT does. And
Okay.
so this is the synopsis of that meeting. This is the inside baseball that I know from talking to this gentleman. And I can only bring back to the community and to the PBSD what he tells me about option 3. And it's really very complicated, because when you want to really go north and have to make a U-turn, more than line of sight, it's getting across those lanes of traffic, waiting for like no traffic. In season, that's almost difficult, but it's not an easy subject, and it would take a full court press, I think, by Pelican Bay as a community to push something forward. And the community would really have to be in favor of one of the remedies. And as a large community and an influential community that we are, we could probably make something happen. But, it's really something that the PBSD doesn't have in its ordinance to champion or just spend money on.
I was going to say, I think we should also recognise that if, a gentleman talked about his 2 million driving miles, that's pretty impressive. It's almost like air miles. But people need to recognise, if you're not comfortable turning right and going and do a U-turn, you've got options to head north, go on North Point or on Hammock Oak, or even go to the end of the boulevard to turn left to head north. So if you're not that skilled or worried about it, you do have other options.
You do.
It's not as if we're deliberately putting people at
Right.
risk.
Well, I mean, I think we need to wrap this up, but the reality is, although it's not in the form of a permanent or a temporary barrier, the signs at the moment require you to turn right? So right now we're asking people to turn right, go south, make a U-turn, and then come north, right? We're asking them to do something which we all think is fairly dangerous to do. But we think it's less dangerous but it's a subjective call. It's less dangerous than trying to make the turn left out of Gulf Park, right? And we've made a call on that already. We've done it, right? We've put these delineators in, we've put signs up, so we've done it, right? So that's done. The only question is it permanent or is it what we've got right now? So if that's not the answer, if people are uncomfortable with that situation as it currently is, let alone how it would be if we put a physical barrier in, then the only alternative is to go back to what we had or put a light in. And that is a tough thing to decide, and I don't think we can do it right here today. And so I think, Tony, maybe we just put it on a note between us that we need to follow this up some and try and figure out how we take it forward.
Tony and I can put our heads together and see if there's a good way to get some community input.
Yeah.
Because I totally understand where you're coming from, but I've heard there are just as many passionate people on the other side in Las Cruces and the other neighborhoods across 41 that are very, very concerned about the noise of cars starting up and
Right.
at a traffic light.
Yeah, I've heard that too. So it does need, you know, more input, no question. Okay, so let's leave it like that. Sorry, yes, sir, go ahead.
I just want to make one more point. Probably a lot of people don't realize this. I don't know whether this law is still in effect or not, but I know it was when my parents were alive. And in the late 90s, in Florida, you were allowed to fail your driver's test up to 5 times. Okay? So that means, and I'm sure it's still in effect today, all right? That means there are a lot of people driving around in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. So you've got to be very aware of where you are at all times. And just,
Yeah, okay. All right, let's wrap that up then. Okay, thank you, Joe, for the update. Michael, who's sick as a dog, but willing to make an effort here to...
On behalf of the Clam Bay and Water Management Committees, we've drawn a lot of attention and we have a lot of things going on. We have not met since the last board meeting, so there isn't a committee report per se, but I thought it would be important to my fellow board members as well as the very interested public to give at least a brief view of what we have going on and what we will be discussing on our February 25th meeting. The first thing I would recommend to my commissioners and anyone who would like to read it is the 2024 Clam Bay Monitoring Report. It's on the website, the county website. It bears a date of January 22nd, 2025. It is lengthy, it is thorough, and it's ultimately quite sobering. What we do in the monitoring report, what the consultants do, is they look at the health of the mangroves, the coastal scrub, the seagrass, water level, archaeological issues, if any, although we don't have any at the moment, our species. As a simple example, we do a survey of our gopher population, and Ian basically decimated it, and Helene and Milton didn't help. And just since Ian, we went from about 97 active nests to 2. We look at exotics and nuisance plants, we look at the channels, and we look at the navigation markers in Clam Bay. We're not going to have time even at our committee meeting to go into all of this, but I thought for here I would highlight what I think is, I use the word sobering to avoid the word alarming. I don't think it's alarming. If you look at the health of the mangrove on a parcel by parcel basis, they are recovering from Ian and bore up pretty well under Milton and Helene, but for the fact that a lot of it was destroyed totally by sand in the last 2. We've had in the last 7 years, we've had 4 hurricanes. When I moved here in almost 31 years ago, I said, well, what about hurricanes? And got a laugh from the real estate people because, oh, Naples hasn't had a hurricane in 60 years. We are suffering what Mother Nature has thrown at us. We know from the report that the channeling we do to maintain the flow in Clam Bay, those channels work, but they have to be maintained. And every time we have a disruption, we have big maintenance issues, not to mention our desire to add channels where appropriate in areas of stressed mangroves or in areas of dead and dying mangroves. Perhaps the saddest note in this report is seagrass. Not too many years ago, we had about 10 acres of seagrass. Seagrass, for those who don't know, I think most of you on the board do know, is a critical habitat for the little critters, the little fishes, and without the little fishes, you don't get big fishes. They provide the hiding places from larger predators. So we went from about 10 acres of seagrass. 10 years ago, I think we had about 6.5 acres. Last year, the 2023 report, we had a little over 1.5 acres. This year, we have 2/3 of an acre. It's not boding well for the vibrancy of our ecology. So we will be dealing, to the extent we can, about some of these, but understand our focus is the health of the mangroves, which really is about channelization and maintaining the flow of water, the free flow of water from, through Clam Pass, the appropriate flow. We are waiting, as was indicated at the beginning, for our coastal engineer, who's completed the bathymetric survey, to advise us on what we need to do to remove excess sand from Clam Pass under our permit. And that bathymetric survey is also part of the backbone for our permit renewal, which I discussed at the last meeting. Those who are going to attend the meeting, I'm hopeful by the 25th, we will have the recommendations that we need to make a recommendation to the board. A second item that you all know we've been dealing with, Bill McCormick stressed us a couple of times, we did receive a letter from the Bay Colony Community Association urging us to harden the Bay Colony drainage swale. We have a meeting with South Florida Water Management District toward the end of March, I think the 25th, to see what is even feasible or allowable. As you may know, we have a natural system, which was essentially destroyed in Milton and Helene, and we've basically nearly completed the work, I would guess, in restoring the natural, relatively steep embankments that provide for the necessary flow. We've relied on that kind of a natural condition, I guess, since the inception of Pelican Bay, and certainly we take to heart the interest in perhaps hardening that so we don't suffer the loss of it again. My guess is it's going to cost us $1 million before we're done to fully restore it. Would a hardened system prevent this? I don't know. We clearly need the results of some serious engineering studies going forward, but we need to first find out what's even feasible. We can't go forward with studying what we want to do if we can't do it. So we'll be looking forward to that meeting in March, and then following up with ultimately a recommendation to the board. But it's going to take a while. The other thing we received the other day, which again will be discussed once staff completes its review, is a proposal for what we call the back dune replacement and plantings. The front dunes, the dunes closest to the beach, to the water, that's part of our beach restoration, and we will be going forward, obviously, with that. But because of all the sand deposition further east, which destroyed the mangroves and destroyed some coastal plantings we had put on South Beach and did a lot of other mischief, we've been removing some of that sand, as you know, but what you put back there, how do you stabilize it? Will it survive? These are important questions. The quote we have for doing some of that work for these plantings is quite expensive. And if the next sand surge wipes it out, we'll have spent a lot of money and have to begin all over again. So these are difficult issues. Hopefully we can make good recommendations to the board, and the board can make some good decisions about spending our community money in a way that gives us some long-term benefits and not short-term solutions. The county, as you know, has purchased about 1 million plants as part of this coastal planting. There was in the Naples News a video clip of work being done by FGCU to try to find the optimum mix of plants that will do best in under future conditions. I think any proposal that would come out of our committee probably would reflect not only our own consultants' recommendations, but we should take the benefit of what the county's doing and what FGCU is doing to see that we get the right kinds of plantings. But the one takeaway from all of that about dunes and their permanence or lack thereof, and the plantings and their lack of permanence also, is that Mother Nature needs two things. It needs time, and for the mangroves especially, it needs good flow. We focus mostly on flow because we can control that to some extent. We can't control time. We cannot control the intervals that bring us these hurricanes. And frankly, if they come too frequently, there's not a whole lot we can do. We can keep putting it back, but, you know what the definition of insanity is. So there's a lot going on our committee. Sometimes it seems a bit overwhelming. And I will certainly be back with a series of recommendations for, what's the meeting after the next meeting date for
12th.
us?
12th of March,
All
ours.
right, so
yeah.
hopefully on the 25th, we'll make some recommendations. We'll be back on the next board meeting.
Anybody, comments, questions in mind? Yep.
Yes.
Yes, that will be completed. We're waiting for all the drainage from all the buildings to be fed to the swale. We've got some washouts, and we're just waiting for all of them to be done. And then that side will look the same, just like the Contessa down the way. It will have it on both sides to stabilize the banks. And we look to have growth come through that. We're already seeing some green grass grow up through there, so we're excited to see that.
By the way, I think the people of Bay Colony, your response to Doug Heston's letter was an excellent response, and we very much appreciate it's not only its thoroughness, but the positive tone of the fact that you're going to try to do something.
Yeah, the digging this thing out every 2 or 3 years is not a great option, so, I just had a couple of comments. I took some time during this last couple of weeks to ride the beach with Chad. I hadn't done that for some time. And, perhaps you already guys know this, but I was just stunned, actually, by how much sand had been deposited, particularly back in the swale. And what a project that is, or has been, for the staff to dig that back out. I mean, it's like a construction project down there, major construction project down there, and they've done an excellent job in doing that, and thanks to Chad and the team for that. I was also surprised, I guess is the way to put it, about the lack of amount of beach in front of 36 and South Beach, actually. I mean, we drove the Kubota, whatever you call it, down there. We could barely get it down there because everybody was crammed in 30 feet of beach, and it's a fairly steep beach, and it's obvious that we have lost a tremendous amount of sand from about 30 feet or so in front of those facilities out into the water, and typically we haven't. Typically may not even be the right term, but in the past that I'm aware of, we haven't really deposited sand back in the water. It's not been something we've done. So we're not even sure, how we go about remedying some of this stuff. And that's why these stumps and these decayed mangrove forest roots have surfaced. It's because all that sand's disappeared somewhere. We don't quite know where. Well, some of it's gone back into the bay, obviously, but that's a major problem. And Chad and the team have been trying to take the stumps out. They're trying to, I believe, Chad, when you've done it, create some channels so that bathers can walk out through. They don't have to stumble over that stuff. And
Yeah, we're still working on that. We're removing some of that peat to have some clear sections for people to walk in.
Yeah, so it's a major change in what people, are experiencing down at the beaches right now, from what we've had previously. And, we're scratching our heads and we're trying as best we can to come up with some solutions there. We're waiting on this beach renourishment report, as Mike had mentioned. It could well be that there is a requirement for a significant amount of sand to be put back in there if it's indeed feasible, which will be expensive. And that's something, typically we've done some beach renourishment periodically, but this may be of a scale that we haven't yet had to deal with. So all of that is in the unknown column at the moment, but we are trying as best we can to address it. Anything that we do, though, will not happen until fall, I guess, typically is when that happens, right? If we are able to do something, it'll be in the fall. What else have I got here? I guess there's a county workshop, Mike, you didn't mention, on March 4th, I think, right? Where the folks from Seagate have raised some issues with the county that the county have now asked us to meet with them and address collectively. That meeting is supposed to take place on the 4th. Will you be able to attend that, Mike? Do you know?
I think I had a conflict, but I'll double check.
Okay. You or I also probably should attend that. And we'll give them a summary of what we're up to, a little bit along the lines that Mike had alluded to in his briefing here. But I think, one of the concerns I have, and I know, Mike alluded to, is how much money we spend trying to remediate this back beach area. I do have a concern that, the county has been fairly aggressive in putting plantings in post some of these hurricanes. And then they're in the process, I guess, of trying to reclaim some of that money from FEMA. I kind of wonder whether if FEMA money wasn't there, would the county have actually put that stuff in? I kind of wonder, and if we're going to have to pay for this stuff, we've really got to be careful that we're not just putting money there that's going to be washed away on the next big surge. So we do need to be very careful about how much we spend in that area, I think. Michael, the other thing you mentioned was that your committees, you've got a lot of work. You've got most of the work going on at the moment in your combined committee, which I,
Right.
in my wisdom, combined a year ago. And you'd mentioned that perhaps that wasn't such a smart idea. Are you still thinking you want to split those committees? Or?
Well, and I think that whenever we have these meetings, the first question as we shape the agenda is, do we need our consultants? And that costs money. It takes a lot of staff time to prepare for the meetings and attend them. So there has been a certain level of efficiency in combining them, since sometimes the same consultant has to go to both meetings. We had talked about the idea of maybe having joint meetings but co-chairs, so that one chair could focus on water management, the other chair could focus on Clam Bay. They have some fairly distinct issues. It's, are you east of the berm or west of the berm is kind of the way I see it.
Right. So the co-chair idea is kind of what you're recommending for now?
Yeah, at this point, I think
Okay.
that might work well.
Okay.
I could use some help.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any? Sorry. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Did you say?
My name is Hamilton Fish. I live in Willowbrook. My comment addresses both the staff report, the foundation plan, and it requires the teamwork which we have here today. This is the right forum. We have the Clam Pass Committee represented. We have the foundation represented. We have the staff represented. We have the staff of the Services Division and the board. I raised this last year. The issue is plantings in front of the developed areas of the beach to help retain the sand in place. And I had commented last year on at that time, lack of planting in front of South Beach. And my attention was directed by the board quite correctly to plantings which had been put in place in front of North Beach. I have been back now, and I was pleased in November to see the plantings in front of South Beach. But I want to bring to your attention that there is the need apparently for more interaction, cooperation, communication between those who are concerned with the grasses, the committee, the Service Division, which I understand has some responsibility, and the interface with the staff of the foundation, perhaps the board and the plan, because the grasses which were planted last year in front of the South Beach, I have not examined North Beach,
they have, unfortunately, been, they're on their way out. And they're on their way out because there are tire tracks through there. There's furniture being carried back and forth across them. It's the same thing that has happened before. When I first came here in the early 2000s, the area in front of the existing buildings was lush with grasses, shrubs, trees. We rebuilt them. That was removed. We restored some of it. Hurricanes removed it. But I know that you committed to put something back, and you have fulfilled that. But I want to bring to your attention that it's going to require a more coordinated effort with the staff of the Pelican Bay who operate on the beach to maintain them. And budget-wise, action-wise for staff, that there will be a need, there is a need now, to replant what was already replanted. Obviously, we would want to do that until there's some type of commitment, enlightenment on the part of the staff. May I suggest that this might require some type of acceptable, low fencing, barrier, stakes, something to well define where the plants are, so that the people handling the beach chairs, umbrellas, etc., don't bring their vehicles across it, don't carry the equipment across it. And so, does not require a comment. I did want this opportunity to bring attention when all of the interested parties are here. And as was mentioned earlier on another topic, this does require a cooperative effort among people on the dais up here and the professional staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think probably with so little beach width there in front of 36 and so, I would imagine they're struggling to get all the chairs and stuff out there on the beach, but it certainly needs to be looked at. So, okay, thanks. All right, I guess that's then down to me. The only thing I've got was I was going to bring board up to date on the board election. I think when we left it last time, we'd had 5 folks had raised their hand as being interested in position on the board for the open positions, and subsequent to that, one of the persons withdrew their name. So we now have the right number of folks for the right number of slots. So we will not need to have an election. It will be automatic. And Bob Lufkin, who's here, Bob, do you want to stand up? Just say hi. Bob has volunteered to join the board. Cindy Polk, who was here at our last meeting but is not here today, will be the other member who will be taking over. So, and that's together with Michael Rodberg and Joe Chickerell, who will be renewing their terms on the board. So that's four turnovers on the residential side. We also have a resignation on the commercial side. Mark Furlan has indicated that he has got too much going on at the Ritz-Carlton at the moment and didn't want to re-up his position. So we're lucky in that Nick Fabregas, who is the general manager at Waterside, who has been on the board previously and was a very constructive member, has agreed to rejoin us, and so he will be joining us as the new commercial member. And all of those folks will be appointed at the March 11th, I'm told, County Commission meeting, which will be the day before our next board meeting, I think. So they will be here for that board meeting, which means, is that not right? I'm sorry. Oh, they are. But you got a note here that says they'll appoint them on March 11th. Is that not right? Oh, but effective on... I see, okay, all right, fine then, okay, I am with you, all right, good. All right, so then there's another board meeting before they will seat. Okay, fair enough. So that's where we're on the election. Yes,
I'm sorry. I was asked a question the other day by one of the candidates, or rather now electees, I guess. They asked if we, or if there is any education which they will receive as incoming members of this board. And I couldn't answer because it was so long ago for me, I've forgotten. So could you please let me know?
We have an orientation schedule already established. So there will be a new member orientation at the staff level. The date, help me. At the end of this month.
Is that a 1 day, 2 day?
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay, the only other item I had was, which I don't know whether the board members are aware of, which we, staff are working on, and that has to do with the location of our current office. As you know, we took over the premises where we currently are 2 years ago-ish?
4 years.
Was it 4 now? Holy smokes. 4 years ago, okay. And we took it on to share between the, we took some additional space for ourselves, and we also took the opportunity to work with the foundation at the time, who were also looking for space, and we took over a larger space than typically we would have required. The foundation have reshuffled their deck a little and no longer require their space, so we now have more space than we can justify. So Chad is now looking at options to move our current office to another location, probably in the same building. And also to see whether there's any other county department, right, who might be interested in taking some of that space. We had thought for a while that perhaps Hotwire, right, would be interested in the space, but it turns out that they and the county can't seem to get together on how that lease would work. So we're kind of stuck with a situation where we're carrying a bit more expense than we'd like to. So Chad's working on that. Problem we've got obviously is that a move is not inexpensive, and things go up. So how long? What's our current lease on the one? How long does it run for?
We still have 3 more years left on it.
Okay,
But
and
we
the
have an out clause. We had an out clause after 3 years, but we still have 3 more years left. It was a 7-year term.
the rent is allowed, it goes up X% a year in some.
Yes, a certain percentage,
All right.
but it's still way cheaper than the current rate, so.
Yeah. So we're
we've
kind of
gotta run a lot of numbers.
we're kind of faced with the problem of we've got more space than we need, but less space may cost us twice. It may cost us as
Exactly.
much, right?
So that's where I need that detail to see if it makes more sense to move or just stay in place.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the sort of conundrum we've got there. Just to make you aware of that. That's another thing the staff are working on. So. Okay. Anybody else have any other miscellaneous items they want to bring up, discuss before we close? Yes, sir. Yeah, please do.
And it's also potentially to tell Neil we want to send him a Christmas card this year. This is Jim Duffy from Contessa. We were back first here to meet you folks, I guess in the spring of 2022, and it was about Contessa's swale, which is part of the idea for the hardening. And there's been an enormous amount of progress, and I want to make sure it continues. So that the quick headlines are, what we proposed at that time was that the swale, as it was permitted, was never finished in front of Contessa. You probably vaguely remember that. I know Neil and Chad do. And so coming out of that meeting, we worked with the consultants that actually work with PBSD, Jim Cars, Terrell and Hall, Tim Hall, and so on. We came up with a plan that we submitted to Neil and Chad back in, I guess, a year ago. And we came to an agreement that we would, to the best of our agreement, finish the flow that Michael talks about being important. So that flow is to connect from the Bay Colony Bridge down through the swale to under the Strand. So one of the things that came out of our agreement was that we would Neil and Chad would finish the construction where we had made the request, and they've been amazing at that. They showed up after that meeting. They showed up within about 2 or 3 weeks and finished the work, and that's been maintained beautifully. In fact, Contessa is the only building that has both profiles of the grass mats done. It looks gorgeous. So what came out of that meeting was we were to prepare easements for Pelican Bay Service Division to maintain that. And part of the budget that we have organized is for the Strand that already has budget to clean out the organic material under the Strand. So that flow Michael, would be reestablished under the bridge. The hardening we agree with. It seems like a great idea, but it won't work unless there's a flow from the north and from the south. And so we're right about to set up a meeting with Neil and Ched to organize that. We've got the easements ready, and we're ready to provide them to them within probably a month or so. And the permits are already in front of South Florida Water Management District and the Armed Corps. So they're close to being done, involved in So I just want to make an appeal that we continue that process so we can finish the job and to have the hardening work. Because it's not going to work unless there's some flow from the south and to the north. Michael, is what I'm saying correct? I mean, we need the... You have to have a continuous flow. You have to have the flow. So we think the swale and the hardening is, if it works, God bless, because that would help with the sand, but we don't want to slow down what has been amazing progress over 3 years, and with again a great public-private partnership with Neil and his team. Let me see if any questions or.
That sounds right with you, Chad, I think? Yep.
Contessa looks good.
That looks good. Okay. All right.
Chad, my understanding is the county council is going to review the easement issues, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And in fact, in that regard, I have a teleconference scheduled with Bay Colony's General Counsel, Greg Urbancic, and Luann Giovanelli to that point. The desire would be that a easement description and any improvements be conveyed and accepted by the Board of County Commissioners for perpetual maintenance and operation. So that is the plan, and I think that Greg has given us a couple of dates that he's available, so Luann's working it from her end.
Thank you. And thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll continue. There have been lots of days recently where we've kind of cursed having responsibility for that swale, but... All right, the only other thing I did mention, in your packet, there's a whole bunch of pictures in there about some plantings and trees that have been planted in the last, 3 or 4 weeks, I think. There's been an amazing amount of activity in the last month. Putting trees back in where they were taken out, putting trees in where there may not have been trees in the past, I think, and some significant upgrades to some landscaping, which Dave and Chad and the team have been hard at work at, and it's very noticeable, so congratulations everybody, it's very much appreciated. Some different colors, some different textures, some trees that will obviously probably not really come into their own until I'm long gone from here, but it's a legacy project and well worth doing. So congratulations, well done. I also want to just note that we've been the recipient of a benefit, I guess, of the Waterside Shop's destruction of Nordstrom's building. They've decided they had a whole bunch of palm trees and landscaping that they didn't know what to do with, so we've been taking it from them and scattering it around the neighborhood, and it's really making quite a difference. So well done, guys. Very much appreciated. All this stuff takes a lot of time to grow in. I know they look rather small and inadequate at the moment, but with hopefully a summer's worth of rain and some activity, they'll start and look much larger than they do right now, but great start on that, so well done.
Peter
And-
Appleseed 2.0.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, unless there's anybody else, we'll close the meeting. Thank you all for coming, appreciate it. Thank you.